The LYB podcast is sponsored by Fight Energy. Fight Energy is your all-in-one health drink. You have nootropics, 0 calories, 125 milligrams of caffeine, as well as your daily dose of vitamins to keep you feeling your best. You can order Fight at danityfitness.com. Make sure you use code LYB for 25% off. And we're even going to throw in some travel packs for any purchase. And let us know, are you team strawberry or team blueberry? And when you drink Fight, make sure to tag Danity Fitness 1 on socials to share. Hey everyone, welcome to the LYB podcast. On today's episode, we have Captain Lacey Vestal. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. How are you?
Oh, so good. I'm so glad you got to come here. I feel like we've been trying to connect for forever.
Yes.
And so this is really special. We just saw each other actually at the Arnold.
We did.
Which is great. So for anybody who's looking at my clips and stuff like that, she's in my compilation video in her uniform. Yeah. And so you're at the Navy booth.
I was, yeah. The second year in the row, Navy has done a recruiting booth as part of the Arnold. And can't believe you actually found me in that mass of people. It is a crazy event.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I try to explain to people because they're like, oh, like there's a lot of like booths and whatever. I'm like, dude, it's like I don't even know, 150,000 people or something crazy.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we just were swarming. Like we got in there and we started like testing the mics. Mics didn't work. Had to pivot, but to do my LYB initiative, you know? And I even had media passes. So I could have gone like even cooler places, but I was just like, let's do the perimeter and then let's go closer in the perimeter. And then and so then finally I saw, y'all's booth and I was like, she's got to be over here. Like, let's, do it. And did y'all have like different stations? Like you were kind of manning like the pull-ups?
We did. Yeah. Okay. It was definitely more interactive this year. 3 different stations. We had a push-up mat, a pull-up bar, and then like this reaction drill that dropped magnetic pegs.
I saw that.
Which, that was like the biggest crowd pleaser. Yeah. So it was fun. We drew a lot of people in.
That's so
great
cool.
Weekend.
Yeah. I think that's the success to having like a booth and everything like that. Because I know y'all are also at the Music City Fit Expo. And so I've been doing that event since the beginning. Yeah. And so like every year I try to get more, interactive and try to use things. And so last year we had a photo booth so people could come and like smile, and get the actual printouts and like old school, Yeah. So I really loved that just because again, the whole loving your body, mission. It's good to feel silly and feel fun and, and have those memories of people. So I like that a lot. And so this year, y'all's booth, I mean, do you want to talk about it a little bit? Like what y'all are doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited. For the first time, Navy is the premier sponsor of Music City Fit Expo.
Yes.
And also the bodybuilding competition that is going to be a part of that weekend, the NPC Natural Battle of the Titans event.
Yes.
So really, really excited. It is, I think just the perfect alignment of both my professional and personal passions coming together in support of a phenomenal community.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So tell us a little bit, because I mean, I think we probably started following each other through like bodybuilding, right? Don't you think? Or was it before that?
I think so. So I got to Nashville in the summer of 2022.
Okay.
And did Whitney's Nashville Fit Show for the first time that summer.
Okay.
I think that's the year that you competed as well. I remember seeing you, loving your story.
Oh, thank you.
Loving, what it is you stand for and just following your journey ever since.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for that. That's so cool. Because I sponsored that as well that year. And so I was there and that was just like a whirlwind. I mean, I met some of the best people, and one of my best friends who's also been on the podcast, China, me and her competed against each other and then, became best friends. And so that was really cool. So where did you move from? And had you been doing bodybuilding before that? Or was it like, this was your first introduction to it?
Yeah. So I had moved from Hawaii.
Okay.
That was my 3rd or 4th duty station, over the course of probably about a 15-year Navy career at that point. We got orders. My husband and I got orders to come back to Nashville. Okay. He retired out of that job, retired from the Navy after 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I was going to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We thought we were just going to paddleboard off into the sunset out in Hawaii. But the Navy had different plans for me. So I was fortunate enough to have screened for command, which is kind of what we strive for in the officer corps, right? To be in command of an organization, whether that's a warship or, in my case, a recruiting district here in Nashville. So it was a great opportunity for us to come and be here, be a little bit closer to family. Okay. So I arrived in July of 22, but previous to that and during the pandemic, when a lot of the traditional gyms had closed down, I was definitely a big class girl back in the day. All the classes were,
for sure.
Those weren't happening. So found myself on the Camp Smith joint base, working out with a bunch of young Marines, throwing around heavy kettlebells for the first time.
Okay.
And while I have always been an athlete, and strength training has been a component of how I stay in shape. It was never at the forefront.
Okay.
And for the first time in my life, I was lifting heavy and I was lifting consistently.
Love it.
And in conjunction with, understanding what it means to truly operate in a calorie deficit,
Right, yes.
I got lean and I got strong.
Okay.
For the first time, really in my, entire adult life, to the point where a fellow gym goer had said, hey, have you ever thought about competing? And I was like, compete in what?
Yeah.
And she mentioned bodybuilding. She explained the different divisions, the different classes to me, and actually recommended her coach there in Hawaii, who was a former competitor himself. So went and met with Alan. He kind of sized me up, said, yep, you've got the right, right structure for bikini. So the rest was history. I got on board about a 6-month training plan with him, and he prepped me for my first local show there in Hawaii.
Oh, that's cool.
Which happened to align with my 40th birthday. So to me, it was definitely a bucket list thing. That's all I thought it was, like best body at 40.
Yeah.
My body, I finally felt, was reflecting all the work I had put into it for the previous decades, past decades. So I stepped on the stage with just the goal being to compete, right? Just to show up. But ended up winning the true novice category.
Nice.
So best first-time competitor. And I think the bug just bit me. I knew it was something that that really resonated with me, something that I wanted to do moving forward. And not just from a competition standpoint, right? But from a strength and health, well-being, longevity standpoint. So I knew I was headed to Nashville next. So I did a quick Google search of, hey, what shows are coming up? And it was Whitney's show. That show is hands down my favorite. I mean, Whitney just does a great job of making her competitors, as you know, feel just so special and seen and supported. So did that show when I got here in Nashville, and it's kind of taken off from there.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me this. So what age were you when you got into the Navy?
So I went to college at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis.
Okay.
So I graduated from there when I was 23. So from age 19 to 23.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And then, because again, I really don't know how it works. So like, are you, because you said that your husband, you guys met there, like and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
in DC. Yep.
Okay, cool. So you guys meet, and so he did a 25-year contract. Is that how it is? And then
you kind of go tour by tour in the Navy, and the Navy does a great job. I started out as a ship driver in the Navy. About 30 days after I got my college degree and commissioned from Annapolis, I found myself on the deck of a warship, a guided missile destroyer, out in Hawaii, and in charge of a group of sailors, because that's what we're trained to do. And one of the most formative experiences of my life, but also one of the most challenging. Sea duty is hard. We deployed twice, got to see a ton of the world, but it just takes a toll on you. But again, Navy does a good job of rotating us between sea and shore, so that arduous sea duty, and they give you a couple years at shore, so you kind of you get a better quality of life.
So you're not like on the boat for like 5 years.
No, it was a 3-year tour.
3-year
tour, and then went to San Diego shore duty. And that's where I discovered that the Navy, like any big organization, has an HR department. So I laterally transferred to that community. I've been doing HR, personnel support for the Navy ever since.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then but with HR, does that align with the recruiting? Like that's part of it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Navy recruiting, that's one pillar of the HR community.
Okay.
So I've been able to see and do a lot as a Navy HR officer. It's kind of given me some non-traditional roles that have been super exciting. To include working, in and around the Pentagon for about 8 years in DC.
Wow.
And then after that, headed back to Hawaii, and that's where I found that I had screened for command. Recruiting was the organization that I kind of chose to become a part of in a command role. So since the summer of 2022, I've been managing Navy recruiting, efforts across the state of Tennessee and then the 6 states that touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it makes sense with like the expo and then doing all the stuff like to recruit, because you said before we got on that you guys had like because when you run a booth you want retention, like you want people to know your mission past that day, right? So I think that you'd said that you guys had captured like 1,000 emails, which is incredible for those people who don't know that. That's great, because it's very challenging to do. And so you have people who are just like interested, and that way you can reach out to them and follow up and kind of be that support for them.
Yes.
And because they're going to remember you guys at that event that was so special to them. And so I love that. So in terms of like with Navy, with like with how the ranks go and everything. So right now, are you towards the end of this next kind of tour, or is this like you just do this until you want to retire? Like,
Yeah, so great question. So when I took command, I was a commander. That's an 05 in the Navy. And I, again, thought that I was going to be done after this tour, but I was blessed and fortunate enough to promote to captain, the rank of 06.
Okay.
So with that comes a follow-on assignment. So in June, I'll be moving down to Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
Okay.
I know, it's very bittersweet. I have come to love Nashville. I love the job that I'm in. Yeah.
You know what's so wild though when you say Pensacola? This is so crazy because I don't know why, but like me and China and somebody else, you know, a bunch of us have talked about this, but like talked about literally like moving down to Pensacola, like once we're like finished here. Yes, and I don't know why because like which is so funny because I've been to like every other part I feel like of Florida. I've never been to Pensacola. Here it's great, but like China's got some land there. You know, so we're all talking about like we should like retire there. Anyway, but so have you been before, or is this going to be like totally new?
I actually just visited for the first time this year, which is crazy because it's you know, it is one of our major kind of hubs for the Navy, especially for Navy aviation. And so I went down there as part of a training course a couple months back. And again, that was when I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to be done after Nashville. We're going to settle here. But Derek and I went down and we're like, man, this is such a beautiful area.
Yes, 100%.
Could definitely do at least one more tour here at the beach. I think we were both missing, you know, we'd done both 2 tours in Hawaii and just that proximity to the water, you know, beautiful temperatures, sunshine every day. So that definitely appealed to us. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, and then with the tour, this one will be how long?
3 years.
It'll be 3 years again. Okay. And so at that point, then you can say, I'm good. Like, you know, we're okay.
Yeah. Once you hit 20, you know, you can retire. You're eligible to retire. And I just hit 20 years this past May, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I'm sitting here looking at you. For those watching on YouTube, they're probably like, what? You know what I mean? You barely look like 30. So I'm like, I don't, you know, I'm trying to compute the math and it's not working out for me.
It's funny. I have always, you know, in the Navy felt very young. I've usually been part of more senior staffs, especially in DC and the Pentagon. So I've always felt like the youngest one in the room, but now coming here to Nashville and I'm the boss. I'm in charge of folks who are, you know, sometimes barely 20 years old. So I definitely feel like the old lady in the room.
Oh, well, you definitely don't look it. So, and again, you're keeping yourself healthy, doing your bodybuilding and everything like that. And so when you are, you know, so when you say that your family is from here, so did you grow up near here?
I did not. No, I grew up in Pennsylvania. Derek grew up in Tennessee, just right outside of Memphis.
Okay, cool.
And then it actually happened that both of his adult kids were here in this area. When we first moved here, that was a huge driver because for the first time it allowed us to kind of align both our personal and professional lives, which was such a blessing.
Right, because that's got to be hard, right? Like, and because I guess were his kids like so. You said adult kids. So when they were growing up, were they just stationed with him?
Correct. Yeah, mostly in Northern Virginia. Again, kind of right around the DC area. But both, you know, went to college and ended up settling here in the Nashville area. So it was a great time to spend with them. Kind of our first 2 years here, and really just you know, build a family here in the Nashville area. They've since moved on, which was a huge driver for us to take a new set of orders. Right. I think family was definitely a tie and an anchor here. But now that they've moved on, we're a little more open to doing that as well.
Yeah, you can go do your own thing. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me this. So are you like okay, paint the scene for us because I love, like I say this every time, I love a love story. Yes. So how did y'all meet? Was it like, you know, was he certain rank and you guys were in proximity, or did you just see him across the room? Like what happened? Like
That's so funny. So we were both in DC working in support of the Pentagon. And we were, I mean, you know, in the same department, in the same organization. And I think, you know, both of us, this was not either of our first marriages. And neither one of us were really looking for love at that time. I mean, as you can imagine, being in DC, the job is just so fast paced and stressful. You often don't have a lot of time for other things.
Right.
And I think that's how we were both thinking. But, you know, our paths crossed. And it, you know, it all happened really quickly. And just was the very biggest blessing. Derek is such not only just my biggest supporter, but my best friend and my gym buddy and my meal prepper and all those things. So
does he compete as well? Or?
He does not, although he certainly could.
Okay.
When we were back in Hawaii, he really got into the Spartan race thing.
Yes, I've done some of those. Yeah,
really doing the longer distance one, and he's great at that. Since moving to Nashville, he got his personal training certification.
Yeah.
So he's a certified personal trainer now. Okay. So he's always been that for me. And now he's just getting paid to do it.
Yeah. He's like, why not? Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so cool. So tell me this, are you like, because I feel like you're so structured, and I mean, it sounds like, routine, regimen, bodybuilder, like, because I always like kind of joke about it, about like saying that I really could have gone into the military, because in terms of like, I just like it laid out for me. I don't even like also I took an IQ test last night and I've never taken one of those before, so I don't know how accurate it was, but I got a good score, I feel like, but it said that I had like not good, I didn't have the good like cognitive development, like in terms of like problem solving, and I'm like, I feel like I problem solve every day,
right.
but like the rest of the stuff was great and everything, but it was just interesting because it was just very enlightening with that, because it is like something messes up and I'm like, but if you're like, hey, do this, I'm like, got it, done, right? Yep. And so it was just interesting. So, but I always say that I like that kind of like militant, like that kind of schedule, that routine, that regimen. So do you feel like, when you're imagining 3 years from now, or, whatever, can you imagine not really having a schedule like with your job? You know what I mean? Like, would you just make your own schedule and then?
I think so, right? I can't imagine not having that structure and that discipline in my life, on the career side, but also on the fitness side as well. And I think that's why, when I found bodybuilding, it was such an easy fit because it gave me the additional parameters of discipline and structure and routine that I already really enjoyed and kind of craved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that some people, they look at like retirement, they look at these things as like, oh, we're just going to go and like, relax and do nothing. Yeah. And then I'm like, that sounds not great to me. No. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I still feel like I would fill the day up and like, maybe have some time to rest and do whatever. But there's still that, I mean, my mentors, my people who are like kind of retired, they just do kind of like side things now, whatever. I mean, they're like, I wake up in the morning, I eat my first meal, I go play pickleball, I do this, I mean, you still build that routine, and I feel like that this idea of, oh, when I get there, I'll just be able to do whatever I want and then just sit and like, it's not.
It sounds nice in thery, but it's really hard to execute for people who are kind of type A.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, we're type A?
Yeah.
Is that
I think so.
Is that us? Okay. Wasn't sure. Yeah. But yeah. So did you, on your path with everything, right? So, you have this, I attract a lot of high power, females, right? Like bosses and just amazing women. And so it's like, for anyone listening, did you feel like, was there a moment that because you were so high in your career that you missed out on anything, like with whether it would be kids or something like that? Or was it because Derek had kids that it felt like it filled that void too? Or were you just like, I'm good on my, my deal? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I ever look back on my Navy career and think, what if?
Yeah.
And that's not how I'm wired either. Right. But I think because my Navy career has given me so much, I don't feel like I've missed out. And, while kids of my own may have never been a calling for me, I think now having children in my life in a different capacity is so fulfilling and rewarding in a way I couldn't have imagined. So, I mean, the Navy gave me that too, right? The Navy led me to Derek, which led me to my forever family.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. Yeah. Well, what about in terms of, because again, I just, like I said, we've only known each other through socials and stuff. So, and I know like you drink Fight, and so which is so sweet. And we were talking about that before, and you said that, you said strawberry was your favorite.
I'm a strawberry
girl.
So
she's team strawberry. Yes. Okay. By the time this comes out, we'll have our new shipment in. So everybody go order it. Yeah. And yeah, because I'm sure you tried other pre-workouts and done other things and everything. So what about Fight did you, it's like your like thing that you love?
I love an energy drink or blend that doesn't make you jittery. You get that like clean energy without the crash, without the jitters, and Fight delivers on that for sure.
I love it. Yeah, you had asked me if like it was something that I had already like known, like had, or if we created it and things like that. So I partnered with a nutrition company, and I was like, hey, I need a manufacturer. Like, I don't know, how do you do this? Like, because I needed something for me. Cause like I have dealt with acid reflux for a lot of my life, and I would always wake up kind of sick. And, you know, if you're waking up to do cardio already for bodybuilding and stuff, it's like, you don't want to, or even strongman, it's like, it's already hard enough as it is. So to feel nauseous on top of that, not my deal. So I was like, I got to figure out something. This is what I want in it. How do we make it? And so he sent me like, literally, I think 100 samples, like trying different flavors, mixing whatever, And the blueberry pomegranate was the first. And then I was like, okay, everyone wants like that, either a pink lemonade, a strawberry, a cherry, something like that. I was like, spring is coming, you know, and so it was like a year and a half later, and I tried a ton of pink lemonades, and I was like, let's like mesh the two. So really it's like that, you know what I mean? So it was like the perfect combo. So I'm so glad that you love it. And it doesn't have beta alanine in it, so it's not going to make you jittery and everything. So I made sure of that too, because I didn't want that for me. And, you know, and everything that I do, I always am at the test. You know, the guinea pig, you know, like, and even with the LYB, like I told you, like that was for me. And then people were like, oh, we love it. And then it's created something beautiful. So, so I feel like that's kind of how you have to like learn in that. And you know what I mean?
100% agree. I think if it's personal to you and it's a passion of yours, that is going to resonate with other people.
Yeah, 100%. And, but yeah, so whenever I was thinking about like having you on and stuff, I wanted to know, because again, I didn't really know much about your story except for, you know, boss chick, just doing all the things, bodybuilding, everything like that. In the Navy. But before Navy, what was that like? You were an athlete, you said, and then are you an only child, or do you have siblings, or?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. Me, my mom, my dad, and my younger sister. My younger sister, she's 2 years younger than I am. And yeah, was always athletic. I was a competitive swimmer in high school. I was a collegiate rower. And then, you know, as I kind of got into adulthood and continued on with the Navy, you know, found myself doing marathons, triathlons, all the things, all the cardio things. And it wasn't until, again, you know, about the age of 40 that I really truly fell into bodybuilding.
Isn't that wild?
Yes.
Like, so you were just, you're like cardio.
Yeah.
But because I'm sure you did, like, so you said marathons, right? Triathlons. So there was no strength element in any of that, or?
No, there always was. And from as early on as being a high school athlete, there was definitely a weight training component to swimming, a weight training component to rowing. And certainly I knew enough about it to make sure that I incorporated it when I was kind of formulating my own workouts as a mostly endurance athlete. But it was never at the forefront of what I did. And I think that was the shift that really helped, you know, strengthen me both physically and mentally, and truly change my body at midlife, you know, and which I think is, it's hard to do. I think a lot of women don't believe that's possible, but I have a better body and better physique and better mentality now into my 40s than certainly I did at 20 or 30.
And that's such a testament to say, because I think that we're so conditioned and told by like 30, if you're not married and have kids, like, oh no, or, oh, you still have time, or, you know, or whatever, this pressure, or they're like, you know, this is going to be the best years of how, like that pressure. I mean, I train clients that are in their 20s, and the pressure that they have, that people tell them that like, these are your best years, live it up, you know, and they're like, well, I'm not healthy, and I don't like the way that I look, and I don't feel good. So great. What do I have to look forward to?
Right.
You know, it's almost that, like, it's only going to get worse from here. And so I love having, you know, I've had several women come on that are, you know, midlife or even older, and have, you know, been like, oh yeah, I started training, you know, 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever it might be. So I think that's really important for people to know. And so were you, you know, did you, let's sort, because also too, people who aren't watching, which they should be on YouTube, you have a very strong build, but you don't look manly. So everyone listening, you know what I mean? Because they might think Navy and like, you know, she's like, bodybuilding and whatever. That's not what it is, you know, especially bikini competitors. Like, yes, they have muscle, but it's not what someone who doesn't really understand bodybuilding would know. So when you were like getting into bodybuilding, did you have people that were kind of like, whoa, like this is like crazy, or were they like, no, this totally suits you? Like, do you know what I mean? Like from the outside?
Yeah, I think mostly the latter. And I think if anybody who knows me knows that when I go into something, I go all in. So even if there was anybody who had a little bit of hesitation, I certainly wasn't going to let that stop me. But it made sense. I think it was a logical fit for me on a lot of levels.
Yeah. So have you had any, because again, like when people look at bodybuilding, they've heard kind of like my story and stuff like that. Have you had any type of health things, or like what has that looked like for you?
Yeah. And I think, I've always been really upfront about my journey into and with the sport because I think it's really important, right? Bodybuilding has given me so much, but there are also areas where I've struggled and I struggle in the same way that many other competitors struggle. And I think one that's metabolically and hormonally really had a tough off season this year. Low thyroid, low testosterone. Thankfully, I found the right doctor, the right treatment protocol. We're back on track. But when you're stuck in that, I mean, it's preaching to the choir. I mean, it is rough. And I also think, there are the more of the psychological components, disordered eating, body dysmorphia. It's like once you see yourself stage lean, Danny, and that like you can never unsee that. Right. And there's something that is so empowering about that. But there's also something that can be if you let yourself spiral, not great about that. And I've struggled through all of that. Right. But at the end of every season, the end of every, workout day, I just kind of write my pros and cons list, and the pros for me for bodybuilding still far outweigh any of the cons. And I think as I become more mature in the sport, and thankfully I'm working with a phenomenal coach. I work with Kimoto Body Bio. Okay. He does my nutrition, my training programming, and then I work with Vanya. Yes. Our local hometown hero.
Who she actually has been on the podcast. So she just won the Arnold. Yes. And I mean, in the first Black woman to win, correct? Ever.
Bikini International Arnold champ.
I have chills right now because that gave me that was wild. Because I was listening to podcasts leading up, and people were like, oh, they're kind of like talking about like they didn't really know who was going to win for like bikini type thing. Like, oh, like Murfreesboro, like Vanya, and I was like, like she's coming through, but it was kind of like people didn't even really like put her on, top, and just to see that, I mean, was great. So that's awesome. So she's your posing coach? And,
she is, my posing coach. And to me, she exemplifies all that is good in that sport, which is if you just keep showing up and working hard every single day, only goodness is going to come of that. Right. And she does it the right way. She does it a healthy way. Yeah. And I think year after year, season after season, that's what I try to embody, right? Yeah. Bodybuilding isn't just about the stage look. Right. Bodybuilding isn't just about competition prep. Yeah. It's about the off season. It's about building back a better body
for sure. Year. Yes, for sure. Yeah. And again, to build that body does come with your improvement season. Yes. So everyone listening, like I think that sometimes they get it twisted or they don't understand, or like, and even with like my stuff, like I, because I'm sure you've seen like after I just had like poor coaching and just, it was a very, again, the whole time I thought it was going great, and like, and I didn't really realize the effects that like some of the things could have on me. I didn't know. If you would have said that, oh, like you could eventually like lose part of your eyesight because of stress and all the things that, and lack of nutrient-dense foods. And I mean, I had no clue. Yeah. And so like, I'm thinking I'm following this plan, I'm doing it to a T, like whatever. But it was so stressful around all of it that like, the whole we talked about before, like I'm running to the gym at 3:30 in the morning to get there because I didn't have the LYB yet, or I would go to Murfreesboro to do my podcast, and that about killed me. Like, and like just scheduling wise, and like it was, before I was doing this here, and I was like, I have to minimize my life, and I already felt it coming, and. For me, there was like a moment where I wish I would have listened to it. And this has happened multiple times in my life. I think God is always trying to tell me to be more patient. It literally, there's 3 distinct moments before I've gotten like severely injured where he was like, hey sis, maybe you should do this, or like maybe you should whatever. And I was like, nah, I got this, and it's so, looking back, I'm like, to have those profound moments like that, it was just like, man, like he always is looking out for me and always like there. And so anyway, so it's just, with that to say, I think that people don't understand that like, even when you have the low thyroid or things aren't working or whatever, you're still meal prepping. Yes. Like you're still weighing your food. You're still like, there's no like vacation, quote unquote. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, even at my, like getting to my heaviest in this like new season of stuff, because like my body didn't feel safe enough to have a cycle. I didn't have one for like 3 years. So like the threshold I thought that I could like live at, it was like, nah, like and so my new thyroid, she's my hormone specialist. She was like, you got to keep going up. Like, you got to keep, like we got until you get it. And so I was like, that's upsetting. You know what I mean? And so I was like, and so I really wanted to just stay where I was at and be like, no, I can make it work here. And Body was like, no, because as soon as I would step off stage, it was right back to it. And I got like applauded for that. You know what I mean? And I just didn't know, you know, so I'm thinking like, oh, this is what everybody does. Right? So you get, I think so it's more like that tunnel vision.
I think so too. And I think, you know, first being a, you know, strong type A motivated woman, you know, you never want to say no. Like, no, I can't handle this. No, I can't do it. The answer is always, I can work harder. I can do better. Right. And I think the sport, or at least some communities within the sport, completely support that mindset and mentality. Same. My first coach, local coach, I was very, very low calorie, very high cardio towards the end. And I thought that was just the way we did it.
Right. If you haven't yet checked out How to Love Your Body Throughout on Amazon, please go do so. It is my passion project. It is something that is so special, and it's a tool and guide to help you love yourself more throughout your journey. Whether you're in a bodybuilding prep, whether you're a mom of 4, or you're someone that's just looking to love the body that they're in right now, I highly encourage you to check out the book on Amazon, as well as you can reach out to me with any questions. And if you're able to share this with a friend or loved one, please do, and help supporting the mission to help everybody love their body throughout their journey.
I don't have a huge social media footprint, but you can find me at Lacey.Vestal on Instagram. And if you're interested in joining the Navy, Navy.com. Right. So when I got here and after I finished Fit Show, again, was not in a great place health-wise. You know, I really spent some time looking for a coach and doing my research, somebody who could help me through the entire cycle of competing. So I could learn how to do it the right way.
And that's so important. And I'm so glad that you found that. And so that coach that you have now, he's not local?
No, he's based out of California.
And that's unfortunate, because that's like most of the ones that you know what I mean? Like, I don't really think, and even Vanya had talked about that on here. She's like, the local is not, it's not the same. Like, you know, and no shade to them or whatever. And I think that people are learning and they're getting better. But just so much has come out now that now everyone's talking about it. And I'm like, where was this 2 years ago? Like, because this would have saved me. So I think that it's important that, again, we do speak on these things, because someone could just look at you and be like, wow, she is doing all this and have no idea. And then you're like, you know, especially if you don't have visible signs of stuff too. Right? Like, for example, with my eye, like that's like, they call it like a, what's it called? A silent disability, you know? And it's like, it's one of those things where like, I swear I could write a book on just this, of like, I can call it would be like spray tans and blowouts, like hair bloods, because even when I couldn't feel my leg, I looked, you know, like I was, I mean, influencer for this building, like going through grief, but nobody really knew, you know what I mean? Like, so all these things, and like everyone's like, no, but you look great, and I'm like, I can't feel my leg, like, so what do I do, you know? And it's just like, and so all of my like injury things, like, you know, I'm knock on wood, but like, it's not like I've ever had a cast or something that's like, everybody knows, you know, like something. It's like, no, hey guys, like, you know, I can't have trouble, you know, seeing or doing this or whatever. I ran into a tree the other day. I got nicked on the neck. I was like, ow, like that's not ideal. Like, but it's just things that you don't think about, right? And so so I think that again, it's not just going to be as apparent as everyone thinks. Like people who look, quote unquote, that they're doing great or whatever, have so much internal struggle. And so I did want to ask you, with the mental side of everything with bodybuilding, do you have like a therapist? Do you have support like with just your coach? Like how do you get through those moments?
Yes, to all the things. I have a therapist who's phenomenal. You know, again, my husband is my biggest cheerleader, biggest fan. And him being an athlete as well, he's able to understand a lot of things that other people don't necessarily.
Which is great.
Having somebody like Vanya, and specifically Vanya in my corner, who understands competing as both an amateur athlete and as a professional and as a champion, but also really can bring that down to the, you know, the very personal level and have some hard conversations.
Right.
All those things are super, super important.
For sure.
And I think just talking about things, that's why I give you so much credit. You're so honest, you're so open. And I think it's really easy to gloss over, to look at the stage photos and be like, this is awesome, right? But there's so much underneath the surface that I think we don't give enough lip service and talk time to.
Yeah.
And which is why I was really excited to do this podcast. And it's why I feel like this is a great time in my life. I have that platform available to me where, I am a boss and a leader at work and, very much able to, show up and be seen in the local fitness community and say, hey, like you can have it all. But let's talk about what that really looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so special. And that's so great. And again, it's, I look back at everything. Like I had dinner the other night with a friend and we were sitting there and just reminiscing about like strongman days, and like, cause we didn't know each other when we both did strongman, but his back got severely messed up and mine did as well. But like, I still look at it with like kind eyes of like, it was such a beautiful time. Yeah. And like, I don't regret it. And even with bodybuilding, I don't regret it. Like I would never want to go back because it did teach me how to eat differently. It did teach me about really everything when it comes to even discipline and stuff, because I was already so structured, but like to push it past that, like you just feel so accomplished that it is hard when you are a type A, or especially if you don't have like a partner and you're just alone.
Yes.
Like, cause I mean, it's like, who do you talk to? Especially if all your eggs are in one basket with like one coach, right? Yeah. And so that's why like I still am really trying to advocate that, the girls get, like, I think that everyone who goes through bodybuilding should have a therapist. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
everybody should have it.
Everyone should have a therapist, yes. But like especially with this, or even like mindset coaching, and like have a time where you can just talk freely with someone that gets it, someone that understands, because it is hard. Because the people who are on the outside, I tried to explain. Because you heard about the girl at the Arnold that passed away? Did you? Yes. And so all of my clients are asking me about that, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go into it. You know what I mean? And it's just this whole, like, it's almost like this, like, wait, because you don't want to make it sound as if it's a negative thing, because it brings so much good. But with anything, any extreme can be bad. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened was, from what I know, again, don't know the girl personally and stuff like that. But this girl who was a bodybuilder, competitor, she was figure. She's 20 years old. She went to the Arnold, and the Arnold, like I said, it was hot in there. Like I remember when I was not even really in a prep, but I was in a prep because I never really got out of a prep. I feel like when I went 2 years ago, that I remember eating my meal and I felt like I was gonna black out a little bit. I got dehydrated, so I had to get some water. Like I remember feeling not my best, but still running around and whatever. Anyway. And I think that she just wanted to look her best. She wasn't competing, but she just wanted to look good for the event. Yeah. And so she, they say not advised by her coach. Like she didn't talk to him about it, but in conjunction with what she was already taking, like steroids and stuff like that. Like she took some diuretics and some other things, like to get leaner. And like, and again, anybody that's in the competitive world can kind of understand this. Cause even like I have people, even non-competing world that for their weddings, like, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds before my wedding in a month. Okay, well, how do you think we're going to do that? Do you know what I mean, though? But seriously, like, I mean, like, okay, let's run out all your water, dehydrate before the day. Like, so it's not that extreme of what everyone was saying that, like, oh, I can't believe. She just, unfortunately, passed away from it. It stopped her heart, I believe, and they couldn't resuscitate her. But it's because, like, I guarantee you that, like, I don't want to say percentage, but a lot of people that were there were probably doing the same thing. They probably they sauna'd before, to look their leanest, or they drew out the water or whatever it is, right? It's just that something interacted with something and her heart stopped. And so again, but what does it come back to? Like, what does it come back to? Why did she feel like she had to have that pressure to do that? And it's because of one thing. I mean, like, again, and you can take it apart and whatever, that's for another time. But for me, it was the one thing of that when we don't love ourselves, this is the kind of stuff that happens, because she had so much pressure of either society, either the bodybuilding community or the event in general, or her just lack of loving herself because she wanted to look better for other people. Right. You know what I mean? And so, again, we don't know, and we won't know the exact what it is. but it's like, that's, you know, and I feel like that could have happened to anyone. So I don't look at it like, oh, that girl was silly or that girl was young or whatever. Like with yeah, it was just some people do, or they want to blame on their coach or whatever. Right. And it's just like, again, it just happens so many times, and that I see this, and it's and whether it's this or suicide, and you know, and also whatever, because there's that initial not love for themselves, and that's what we have to promote, and that's why I think. And sometimes people will be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, I help people love their body through movement, but I'm like, they'll say, "Oh, is that like, you know, cool? Are you like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like my life's work."
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like God put me on this earth.
Yes.
He put me in this body.
Yeah.
Because he knew that if I would have had the stereotypical body, your girl would not have been a nice person. Like, I already know how I would have been. You know what I mean? like I'm sure I wouldn't have, because I would have had these privileges and these things, and I would have been this beautiful snowflakes, butterfly, whatever, right? Which I still am. But like, you know, it's just, again, I know that I probably would have got caught up with that life and society and whatever. So I don't, again, it's one of those things where I try to look at it now of like, you know, my frame was meant to be able to lift heavy, you know, it's stuff and pull trucks and do whatever. Like there was a purpose that growing up, I didn't know with dance, that was the purpose. Because the dance, I was in the back, or like I had to work 10 times harder to be seen. Right. Yep. But then you go through all these different things and not feeling like accepted and whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, can you pick up this 200-pound Atlas stone? And you're like, yeah, let me throw it up on my neck. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. You know? Yep. So it's like, you may not know right now what your purpose is, or why the thing that maybe you hate about yourself the most, or that you don't like, or whatever. But I promise you, like, it will show, like, you know what I mean? Yep. And I don't know. So I just think that it's like, it's such a disservice when we continually, and it's easy to do, right? And that's why, again, it's the tools and the support. Yes. That I think by talking about it, doing activities, I mean, every day saying things to yourself, like, I'm enough, I'm worthy of love, like, and really until you believe it, you know? Just saying it is not anything, right? Yeah. But until you really believe it. So I did want to ask you, you know, in terms of like with your relationship and stuff like that, like, you know, do you feel like your husband, stuff like that, like, is he, I mean, I'm sure I know the answer to this. Like, he's such a good support in like with whatever size body you're in, whenever you're going through improvement and or your prep or whatever. You know, like?
Absolutely. And it's almost counterintuitive, right? I think, you know, as females, we think we look best when we're smaller, when we're leaner, where we're the, you know, the tiniest version of ourselves. Yeah. And I know that's not my husband's perspective. Right. And I think both you and I know that when you step on that stage, that is not the healthiest version of yourself, right? The photo may look great. Yeah. And it takes so much to get to that moment. And that's what's beautiful about that moment, not necessarily how you're looking or how you're feeling. Right. And so to me, there's just so much goodness in the reverse dieting, in the building back, in the off season. And thankfully, Derek appreciates that more than anybody. Yeah. And so it's for us, you know, for him, I think him seeing me healthy and strong is the version of me that he loves the most.
See, and that's beautiful. Yeah. And that's everything that I could ever hope for or want, because it is like this whole, and I really feel it, the pressure on like I'd say 30-year-olds, like those, you know, they're like 30 to 40 age range of, they're like looking for somebody, or they're wanting to be in a relationship or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's like that whole thing of just like, I would just love for someone to look at me and be like, yes, like I love it all. You know what I mean? Like the muscles, the back, the everything, like no matter if you are down in weight or you're up in weight, like it's still just beautiful. And I feel like that's how like God sees me. Yes. So for me, it's like, you know, finding that from a partner would be huge. And because that's really like I don't care if you think that, oh, my business is fantastic, or you think you're like all these accolades, like whatever. What it really comes down to is it's like just having a mature enough man that understands like that can be beautiful too. Yes. Because all can coincide. Yeah. You can be beautiful and I can be beautiful. It doesn't have to be either or. Right. You know? Yes. And I think that's the main thing that people struggle with, especially if they've been in a larger body their whole life, of looking at others and being like, no, it's always them. When really that's not true. But because people perpetuate that, then it seems like it's true. Yes. Right? Absolutely. And so, so it's like I saw this video, this reel, and I had shared it with I have a small like Instagram group with my clients, you know, and I shared it the other night, and it was like this little girl, oh man, it's gonna like make me cry. It's like this little girl, and she's like in a bathing suit, Anyway, this woman's talking over it and was like, at what point did we lose that fun, like bellies out, like tummy out, like you just like, when you're little, like running around and you're just like, I love my, everything, and you're riding bikes and you're running, you're climbing trees and you're all the things that I did as a kid and dancing and, whatever. And you're just playful. It's like, at what point did it become so bad? And then it's like, oh, put your tummy in. Yeah. Don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, stand up tall, like, right?
Danny, this is so crazy. And this may be like TMI, but I was having this conversation with Derek last night when we were walking the dog. Yeah. Growing up as an athlete, and especially as a swimmer, like I've always been accustomed to being in a locker room with other naked women, right? Yeah. Like thought nothing of it.
Right.
And now as I, go to my normal gym for workouts, which is a locker room full of ladies who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, I often find that I'm the only one who's comfortable doing that. So many women rushing to cover up their butt.
Yes.
And you're in a safe space. Well, what do you have to prove?
Right.
And it's mind-boggling to me that perspective, and maybe my perspective has been different all along, but that struck me the other day as being really sad.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. That's not TMI at all. Yeah. Like, we can talk about anything on here. But no, when I will say that because for them, it's not a safe space. Yeah. And because they were never allowed to feel free or to feel okay, because I've had many people tell me that they've been body shamed before at a gym or at a locker room, whatever. So they'll go hide or they'll put a towel on or they won't even shower there. Like, or that they just, they reflected or what's the word? Projected their own insecurity. So like, so they felt like everyone was judging them when really like, truly like no one really cares. And that's why like, again, I always talk about this. I literally say this every time, but like, I really do love like being like naked and like not, because like clothes are just so awful sometimes and they don't like fit right or they're uncomfortable or whatever. Right. And so it's one of those things where I'm the same way of that. Like, and I don't really remember with dance, like I feel like I just didn't care. Yeah. But until I was like 15, and then because it was made aware that like I was bigger, like I lived in this very naive world that I was just like, whatever, and I always weighed more, but I was like stacked and like smaller, but like I was taller than everybody and whatever. But then when like I had to get on steroids for like my stuff, for health stuff and whatever, and did that for a few months, and just with the bad eating habits, it just, my body at a puberty age, it just was like box.
Sure.
And from there, then it was like, oh, these things are wrong about you, or oh, well, if you did this, like, and it just never clicked. And I was just like, man, like I just love wearing shorts. Like, I mean, I've run down Nashville how many times in just booty shorts? Yeah, you know what I mean? No matter if I was 200 and something pounds or if I was, lean or whatever. And it was one of those things where, I just, I felt so free because and this is something too that I think that it comes down to, right? It's someone has to let them know it's okay. Right?
Yes.
Because if you don't have that, like if you grew up in a household where it was not okay, and then you just go out to live your life, and then you go into a workspace where it's like, it's not okay, or you go to here, like if it's never okay, then when is it going to be okay?
Right.
Right? Yep. So until they see somebody, so they may have saw you, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, and not to be weird, but they may have been like, oh, like she's like getting undressed, like I can get undressed, or like, or like that's what I feel like when I wear a crop top at the gym or sports bra or whatever, because for me, I'm just more comfortable like that. And like, I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. And so when I do that, I'm hoping also that someone sees it and knows like, it's okay. If that's what you want to do. And that because I do that, it doesn't mean I'm bad, less than, you know what I mean? All the words that you could describe, whatever. And so anyway, so I really do try to help people understand that like, it's whatever you're most comfortable in. I think I even said that on the thing on your email. Like I was like, come in whatever you feel like best. Because sometimes people ask like, well, what should I wear? Like, should I, whatever. I'm like, dude, like it's literally, because I want it to be a safe space. So I think we have to, as women, create more safe spaces for people to realize that like, it's okay. And that you having a stomach or you having not the most sculpted back or that you having, you know what I mean? Or wrinkles or whatever it's not like there's no need to hide it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And again, that's a societal change I think that we're starting to get to.
I think so. And I think, the more that we have women in positions of power and leadership who are out there, who are showing up. And that's what I do love so much about my platform and this job that I'm currently in, because I'm very open about like my sport and how I stay in shape and my nutrition. I think, fasting is a big thing, right? So eating less, being small, but I show up every day with all my Tupperwares and folks are walking in and out of my office and I'm talking about, how I'm eating and why I'm eating this and why there's more in the off season than, in prep. And we've got a pull-up bar in the office and I jump on that thing every time I walk by, to show that like, it's okay to prioritize your health, to show up for yourself every single day. And you can do it in a safe space.
Well, isn't it wild that someone probably heard that and they're like, wow, like that's kind of crazy. Right. But yet if you would have been like, oh, I eat cupcakes in the whatever, they'd be like, oh, that's normal.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Right. So that's where, guys, we have to change that language, change that mindset, and change that original, like, and I say this all the time too. It's like when you see like a larger body, right? And someone immediately thinks something, right? And most of the time it's something negative. And so what I try to tell people is like, okay, instead of like spiraling and like focus on, well, why are they this and and all these things, just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with a smaller body.
Yes.
Because we have bias between all bodies. And that's the frustrating part, because even like my smaller bodies I train, they're like, every time people are like, why do you have a personal trainer? Or like, why are you doing that? Like, you look fine. And they're like, no, I don't feel good in my body.
Right.
So it's like, stop making it that like, you know what I mean? So I mean, so there's bias on both ends.
Yes.
And I feel like the more that we can understand each other and see that, and so that's why I think the beautiful thing about bodybuilding is, because then it leaves you all kind of on the level playing field of like, oh yeah, you showed up for cardio, yeah, I had to show up for cardio, like, oh yeah, you were doing the diet, like, yeah, I was doing that, like, it's like, and so me and China will look back fondly on those times of being like, and we get it now too, and she'll help me when she's like, I went and did all these things and I'm not feeling good, and it's like, we'll kind of like help each other rein it in, or like be that support. And so I think that that's also, again, having a community to help you with that. And that's what I try to do with like Dandy Fitness, and that way they feel safe to like talk about their accomplishments, but also talk about the bad stuff too, and hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the LYB podcast. If you ever have any questions about wanting to train with Dandy Fitness or getting your movement in, please feel free to reach out to Danny@dandyfitness.com, as well as you can follow me on all social media platforms, Dandy Fitness 1. And so I want this to be more authentic, with this podcast, with the mission, with everything, like, and I'm doing some speaking engagements coming up. And so, and I feel really proud of that, and like wanting it to be, just wanting it to be in different areas. And so that maybe if it just helps even one person, but they could be like, oh, maybe I can start thinking differently. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But so tell me, is there anything, as we're kind of closing out and stuff, like, is there anything that I don't know, like looking back at everything, I mean, it seems like you feel very fulfilled. Like you're very proud. You don't want to look back and regret or anything like that. Is there something towards the future that you're like, man, like I really want to do like something new? Or is there anything that you've thought about? Like,
no, I think it's just being comfortable saying out loud that I want to take both my athletic career and my professional career to the next level. Because I think it's easy to look at, what I've accomplished and say like, that's enough, right? But that's not how I'm wired. Yeah. And I think it's okay to say out loud, like, no, I want more. And I think there is a space for both of those two things to coexist. Right. And as I'm seeing right now, for them to align, both the military, recruiting, fitness, all of it coming together, to use as a platform. And I'm just really excited about that opportunity.
For sure. Yeah. So do you feel like, do you feel, like you kind of thrive under the pressure though? Yes. Yeah. That's me too. Yeah. I get that. Yep. Do you ever have to, like, does Derek ever have to like rein you back though?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That was another conversation we literally just had a day or two ago. It's like, can we just find a balance? And I know balance is such a dirty word these days, but
I know, but
but no, I mean, I think it's tough. It's tough for folks who aren't like-minded to understand. Right. And I have to also own, you talking about the good and the bad, like you have to take an objective look at yourself and be like, hey, am I putting too much stress and pressure on myself? Because when I did struggle with my health this past off season, a lot of it stress is a huge factor
Yes.
with that, right? It's not just the training. It's not just the
100%.
nutrition. It's the stress that is put on your body through the sport, but also through the stress that you put on yourself. So I am really looking to kind of find healthier ways to mitigate that. Maybe get out of my head a little bit more.
Yes.
I think that's a great goal.
100%.
And more just into my body and into the doing of the sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, everyone listening there, again, everyone knows that stress is bad, but it's like, it's kind of like when you say like smoking's bad, and everybody's like, yeah, but people still do it.
Right.
Like, it's like, but you're right.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things of like, or or even a better analogy, they're like, well, stress, like you can't get, everyone's stressed. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing though, you guys, it's like, they told me that like my thyroid couldn't naturally increase. Like they were like, it's like low, you're going to have to go on medicine, whatever. And I was like, nah, I'm going to try something else. And so I got with my hormone specialist and cause and basically it was within 3 months, got my cycle back.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my thyroid increased.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then like, we're trying to fix my gut biome cause it's wrecked.
Yeah.
And so, and digestion's better. And like, so there's so many positive things besides weight loss that have happened. And she's really had to like dig into me to be like, you got to be cool with that. And I'm like, because it's hard because you kind of could be like, hey, actually, I'll just go back to this plan or I'll go back to whatever and I could drop this weight and then it's going to be, you know what I mean? And it's so lame is I guess the word I want to say, but like that literally could do that. And then I would be celebrated. So like, wow, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And that's what kills me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think, your mantra is love your body, but there's also the component of just knowing your body, right? That's step one.
Right.
And then listening to your body is step two.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really and truly, like, I pretty much like turned that off for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I was like, no, like it's okay. But because I like I said, I will do. You say do 1,000 lunges, I got it.
Yep.
You say to go run a half marathon, got it.
Yep.
You say to do 150 floors every day downstairs,
Yeah.
did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and again, I'm very proud of all that. And I am very boastful of like that I was able to do that. And again, showcasing that like at whatever size, I've been able to do incredible things.
Yes.
And that I think is what's important. But again, it's like, even just saying that in my smallest, though, I wasn't my healthiest. So now we're just trying to find a balance.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that word, but like, but you know what I mean? Of finding that. And so for me, like, I mean, even doing the red light therapy, right?
I just got a red light sauna in my house.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. So I have my little blocks over there.
Yeah.
And so I do that. But even not taking emails and texts after like 9 o'clock. I have my Hatch alarm clock, which I love. So I sleep better than I ever have. There's so many things. So like so many positives and my body's still figuring it out. It's not perfect. And it won't be like, oh, in a year we're good to go or whatever. So I have to like take it as it is. And so I love that you're finding that time for yourself. And it is, I truly understand how hard it is. Yeah. And I get it. And I do think that like you moving and like having the beach and, just like that more environment and stuff like is good. But I do want to like say to you too, it's okay, because I had to tell this myself, it's okay to pull back and figure out different ways.
Yes.
Like I still do a podcast now, but now Logan comes to my house. Right?
Yeah.
That helps me greatly.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I still train clients, but I walk out to the LYB to do it. Right. Like I had to do those things. People don't realize that for my health.
Yes.
Because I was like, if I don't, I'll have to give it all up.
Right.
And then what do I do?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
And so it's not kind of like when, it's like, or it's like, it's not if, it's when. Right.
And how.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. And I'm going to ask you this. So what is something that you love about your body?
It is absolutely, I think, strength at any size. I've gone through a 20-year military career, a variety of sports and athletic endeavors to include, competing on a bodybuilding stage at the national level. And throughout every season and every cycle, my body has always showed up for me.
Yeah.
And I just am so proud of its strength.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And it is so true that we take it for granted. And that's why I try to tell people, I'm like, you may be X amount over body fat that you don't want to be, or weight, or whatever it might be. But if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So you have one hormone that's messed up, bro, you're not going to be losing fat like you want to.
Right.
Like you got, you know what I mean? Like you got one thing, whatever, it's going to like inhibit you from this, it's like, so again, it's just making sure that people know that like, it is okay to feel like that, like appreciative in a larger body or in a smaller or whatever it is, because that's what is most important, you know?
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
but thank you so much, Lacey. This was amazing. And thank you for, again, like I said, sharing more about your journey. And I really am excited to see all the new things that you're going to do.
Yes.
And we're going to have fun at the expo.
Yes,
so
I
I'll see
can't
you
wait.
there, and
Yes.
that'll be great.
Yep.
You'll see me dancing on stage
Perfect.
or, you know, do a
Yes.
move fit. So
Yep.
please hop in.
Yes.
And yeah, so that'll be great.
Thank
awesome,
you.
girl. Until
Thank
next
you.
time.